Right now on Denver 7 News at 6 a.m. The images are still shocking. Rioters battling with Capitol Police and lawmakers ducking for cover.
You don't almost knock over the U.S. government by accident.
This morning, we have team coverage as the committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot takes their findings public for the first time.
I'm Joe St. George in Washington. It's been nearly a year and a half since the January 6th attack at the Capitol. And while you may have moved on, the select committee investigating that day has not.
I'm Denver 7's Colette Bordelon. More than 800 people across the country were charged in these riots. A look at the Coloradans facing charges.
Keeping kids safe with the push of a button. The specialized security system one Colorado school district is using to protect against school threats.
Also, making sure you're not ordering fake products. How Amazon is cracking down on billions of counterfeit items.
Turning downtown Denver into one giant party to celebrate the Avs.
It's all about having fun, so you might as well just do what you can to make the experience better for everybody.
The rules the city is waiving for the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, Avs fever has taken over, and I'm sure the beer will be flowing whenever the series does begin. We have our Avs colors on this morning as well.
We totally planned it out.
Yeah, right. Good Thursday morning to you. I'm Brian Sanders.
And I'm Jessica Crawford. You have more of a chance of seeing some afternoon storms today. Lisa now joining us with the forecast.
Yeah, but if you get a little rain, count yourself lucky because it's going to be hot and dry through the weekend. So any little bit that we see today will be a welcome sight. Beautiful right now there at Rocky Mountain National Park, Longs Peak, a pretty start. We do have a little bit more cloud cover out west, and we'll see more building clouds here by early afternoon. Mix of sun and clouds for us in Denver this morning. It's a beautiful start. Actually, a pretty good pool forecast. With that chance of storms, though, this afternoon, you may be scrambling at times. Should be in the 70s, though, as early as 10 o'clock. We'll be well into the mid to even upper 80s this afternoon between about 2 and 5. Denver high of 88, Boulder 87, Evergreen up and through the foothills. You're going to find some upper 70s near 80, more 70s than, well, it looks like 60s in the mountains. Coming up, though, we'll take a look at that risk for some severe weather across the eastern plains, and then I'll show you just how hot it's going to get on our Super 7 Day coming up.
Starting off in pretty good shape for us this morning, but if you want to catch the A-line to or from the airport, we have several of the trains that are not running. They don't have that mandatory second crew member available for the trains that'll be running at 7:30, 9:15, 11 a.m. There's been a whole bunch of them this morning, including trains from the airport back towards downtown, so just check RTD's website. The overall drive, as you can see from Air Tracker 7 right over downtown Denver, looks pretty good. This is I-25 right at 6th Avenue, southbound side. Here's the northbound side, 6th Avenue going towards Santa Fe, heading that way, and it all looks pretty nice. The drive times for right now look fine for us, except for I-76, which is getting busier down to 74th, and 270 going down past the refinery. No problems on 270 this morning like we've seen the last couple of days. No other big issues for us right now.
It's an event that shook the nation when democracy came to the brink of disaster.
And tonight in prime time, it will be the first public hearing for the committee investigating the January 6th riot on Capitol Hill. The group has been gathering evidence since it formed last summer. We have team coverage this morning ahead of the primetime hearing, starting with Denver 7's Joe St. George in Washington.
Does this wall mean anything to you? Probably not. Why would it? But history certainly remembers this wall. After all, men and women from around the country climbed it so they could try and enter the Capitol and prevent the presidency of Joe Biden. That was back on January 6, 2021. And while you may have moved on from that day, a committee here in Washington hasn't. For the past 10 months, they've been investigating January 6th, and tonight they'll begin to report their findings to the public. So what can you expect in this hearing? By now, the photos and the videos all somewhat look the same, but the committee is promising to release previously unseen material that documents just how terrifying that day was for so many. The previous president of ABC News has been hired to help produce the made-for-television primetime event. As a reminder, that day forced former Vice President Mike Pence to be rushed to a secure location. Speaker Nancy Pelosi was evacuated entirely from the Capitol over safety threats. 4 rioters died in the assault, including Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed by Capitol Police when she attempted to enter a secure area. 5 Capitol Police officers died in the days following, too, either from health complications or suicide. The Justice Department has charged close to 900 Americans so far for being involved in some way with January 6th. The hearing is happening behind these committee room doors, and while it will feature some new information, it will largely be a summary of the investigation so far. New testimony will occur tonight from individuals who will say the riot was not as spontaneous as you may have thought, including testimony from a filmmaker who had been following some rioters for weeks prior to January 6th. The committee will also outline their plan for future public hearings, with a final report expected by the group in September. Remember, though, this committee cannot charge anyone. All they can do is refer individuals to the Justice Department for possible prosecution. The committee has conducted over 1,000 interviews over the course of the last 10 months, including with some members of former President Trump's family. Some of that was videotaped and could be played this evening. Don't forget, though, that many conservatives believe the committee's investigation has become too partisan. There are only 2 Republicans on the committee, and both voted to impeach former President Trump. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has said the committee is simply going after political foes. Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York has called their work illegitimate, and some conservative media outlets have decided to not broadcast the hearing tonight as a result. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Meanwhile, the fallout from the Capitol riot has led to the largest prosecution in the history of the U.S. Justice Department. Nearly 900 people have been charged for their involvement.
And the charges range from low-level misdemeanors for those who entered the Capitol to felony seditious conspiracy charges against far-right extremists. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon joining us now in the studio. And Colette, you're taking a closer look at what charges some Coloradans are facing.
At least a dozen of those cases are from Colorado. They stretch from Trinidad to Telluride, all facing charges for their roles in the riot. Now, most of them face a slew of charges. Some are taking plea agreements, while others are pushing ahead with a trial, like Jacob Clark from Trinidad, whose charges include violent entry to the Capitol and obstruction of justice. His last court appearance was at the beginning of June, and he'll have a status conference at the end of August ahead of a trial. Meanwhile, a Peyton man, Thomas Hamner, is pleading guilty to his charges. He should be sentenced in September. He's charged with civil disorder and assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers using a dangerous weapon, among other things. Now, in these screenshots from court documents, they allege that's Hamner fighting with police. And one of the more well-known names in this group, former Olympic swimmer Cleet Keller of Colorado Springs. He pleaded guilty back in September to obstruction of Congress and agreed to fully cooperate with the investigation. He has a virtual court date coming up soon, and even with his plea agreement, faces more than 2 years in prison and anywhere from $10,000 to $95,000 in fines. Now, one of the Coloradans who's already been sentenced for their actions on January 6th pleaded guilty and got home detention, time in community corrections, along with 3 years of probation and a $500 fine. But that's for charges that didn't have any evidence of violent actions on the grounds or inside of the Capitol. Live in the studio, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
Thank you, Colette. Meanwhile, you can watch the hearing tonight on Denver 7. The coverage starts at 6 p.m. Denver 7 News at 6 will be streaming as well on Denver 7 Plus and the denverchannel.com.
A sweeping package of gun control and safety measures is heading to the Senate. The Protecting Our Kids Act includes bills to raise the age to purchase a semi-automatic rifle to 21. It would also make gun trafficking and selling large capacity magazines federal offenses. Plus, the act would strengthen existing regulations on bump stocks and ghost guns. The bill is unlikely to pass in the Senate, though. It passed the House largely on a party line vote. Each of Colorado's Democratic members voting yes and all Colorado Republicans voting no. That House vote came after gut-wrenching testimony from an 11-year-old survivor of the Uvalde school shooting and the mother of Lexi Rubio, a student who did not make it.
He shot my friend that was next to me, and I thought he was going to come back to the room, so I grabbed the blood and put it all over me.
We don't want you to think of Lexi as just a number. She was intelligent, compassionate, and athletic. She was quiet, shy unless she had a point to make. So today, we stand for Lexi, and as her voice, we demand action.
Another witness called by Republicans argues it isn't the guns. Lucretia Hughes lost her 19-year-old son to gun violence.
20 more laws, 1,000 more, won't make what has already illegal more wrong or stop criminals from committing these crimes.
She called for more help addressing mental health and improving school security. Both are being addressed by a bipartisan group in the Senate.
One Colorado high school is bringing in new technology to help keep kids and their teachers safe. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta joins us this morning. South Park High School in Fairplay is the first in the state to get this alert system.
And it's a unique kind of technology that we're talking about this morning. It's actually a button that could help in case of an active shooter. So this is called ASR Threat, and take a look at this video. It looks just like it does in this photo here. Its purpose is to bridge communication between a school and law enforcement agencies when there's some sort of emergency happening. If someone were to push that button, law enforcement would get a notification of some sort immediately. That notification wouldn't just tell them the time the button was pushed, for example. It would get down to the exact room where it was pushed so police can get there as soon as possible, and so they know where to go. Now, there won't just be one of these over at South Park High School. Officials we spoke with told us, as you can imagine, for the sake of security, they can't disclose just how many buttons the high school will have, but they did say they could be on walls, on lanyards, or even other areas. Now, ASR is the company that created the technology. Convergent is helping install it. It's also the company that made it possible for South Park High to get the tech for free. Listen to why one employee told me this work really matters.
This system is important because it provides real-time information for responding agencies. So it allows them to have more information in the event of an unplanned security event. Wherever the device is activated in the school, the law enforcement will know, or responding agencies will know exactly where it was activated.
The installation process itself, it can be a little lengthy, so Convergent staff, they've already started on that. The expectation is for everything to be finished up and running by tomorrow. In Denver, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Veronica, thank you. As prices go up, product sizes are going down. A look at how shrinkflation is impacting what you buy.
Also, beware before you buy the fake products Amazon is fighting to keep off its site.